Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I get you caught up with all the news of the past week around the hockey world. More teams are falling out of the playoff race, and a couple have already been mathematically eliminated. This past week, there are milestones, injuries, transactions, hockey hair contests, and even a goalie scoring a goal. We'll have the details of all this, plus the Minor League Hockey Minute, the NCAA Hockey Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 2, Episode 28, recorded on Thursday, March 15th, 2018. Oh, the places you'll flow.
Shut up and sit down.
Star blue liner of the Penguins.
That's pretty good stuff right there. That turn away again. Takes a lot of composure.
That's the future in New York. And here comes Kreider. What a game for Kreider with 3 points. Puts on the break. Zibanejad. Shot scored! Game winner! Mika Zibanejad!
Boy, I mean, that's one of the reasons the Bruins have been successful. Pastrnak, not known to be physical. He was looking at the clock, Nordstrom there.
He'll cut across. Bruins had a 1-0 lead after one period, scoring late. Marchand from Pastrnak, who keeps the zone, forgets the puck, and it's a breakaway. Short-handed, Elias Lindholm roars in. Tuukka the stop, they score! Brock McGinn on the follow-up. That's hockey, baby! 4-1. Carolina.
Two goals in 56 seconds. And it's something dramatic. Here's David Krejci. Goes around Jordan Staal. He's got Hine in middle. And it scores! Oh my goodness, the Cardiac Kids are doing it again. David Backes tries to come cross ice. Grizzly, an over the shoulder catch. Marchand. Grizzlick's drive wide. Pastrnak picks it up, slings the backhand toward Marchand. Marchand chips it back to Rick Nash. Marchand to Grizzlick to Pastrnak. He scores! You would have to have seen this to believe it. The Bruins with 4 unanswered goals in a span of 6 minutes and 26 seconds. And they lead 5-4.
Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 28 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. I'm Wayne. I'm here once again with Steve. How's it going tonight, Steve?
It is going great, Wayne. Good to be with you. Another great night to do a podcast.
It sure is. The clocks have changed, so it's getting dark later. I'm liking that, although we are doing it a little later than we normally do on our normal night. Well, tonight is Thursday, so we've been alternating between Thursdays and Fridays between doing these things. But tonight it's Thursday, so and it's a little later than we normally start. But hey, we're getting it done. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got we've got some playoff races to talk about. And in that sense, there's some teams that are kind of dropping out. The teams that are dropping out are adding up. We'll put it that way.
Yep.
And then I attended a NHL game this week. I'll have stories from that.
Excited to hear about that.
Yeah, and got a disturbing story coming out of the KHL to talk about. We actually have, according to NHL.com anyway, 2 teams that have been officially eliminated from NHL playoff contention, like mathematically eliminated, not just realistically eliminated.
Right.
I only calculated 1 team eliminated, but apparently there's a second one. So we'll have all this and more. So let's get started. Of course, we always start by talking about our favorite teams. And it's been a busy week because it's been, 9 days since we last recorded?
Yes, it has been, Wayne. We did last Tuesday night. We won't go into details while we got a little bit behind, but suffice to say, this is the first recording in 9 days, but it's back to the normal time that we would record.
Yep.
It doesn't make a long story short. There's so much hockey going on this time of year, and in so many different areas that a lot of news piles up quickly.
Yeah, it sure does. Even without having a lot of transactions, although we actually do have transactions to talk about this week, just not too much on the player side of things because the trade deadline passed there a couple of weeks ago. But let's start by talking about, I don't know, you want to talk about the Rangers to start the show?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, I'm ready to go. The New York Rangers, I think it's plain to say are not going to make the playoffs, Wayne.
Nope.
We've had our discussion. If they were to win the rest of their games, and I think they have 11 games, it's either 10 or 11 games left. They'd have 93 points. They'd probably make a valiant effort of it, but I don't think that that would even be enough. It might possibly, theoretically, they could possibly, if they won the rest of their games, it might be enough to catch Columbus. But I doubt it. And so I think we're talking about my team is probably not going to make the playoffs. However, I am encouraged and excited about a lot of things that I saw in this past week. And as a Rangers fan, if you are a Rangers fan of any length of time at all, you go through these times where our team does not – has its ups and downs. Not since Henrik has come along in a long time, but even with Henrik this year, we've had a tough go of it. It's been a difficult season for us, but I'm encouraged by a lot of things, and I'll touch on some of them during the night. But we let it suffice to say we played Winnipeg on March the 6th, and that was the Patrick Laine show. They beat us 3-0, and he had a hat trick. And he is truly an amazing player. He really is. If you were to take him and Connor McDavid now and look at them together, I don't know who you'd say would be the better player right now in the NHL. Because Patrick Laine is playing every bit as good as one of the best players in the game.
And he hasn't even turned 20 yet.
Hasn't even turned 20. And they talked about that immensely that night. But he is truly that wrist shot of his is something to watch. It's a thing of beauty. Winnipeg won that game going away. We could not score on Connor Hellebuck, and they really easily won that game. It was never a contest, really. We didn't have anything to answer for him. I'm trying to remember whether Alexander Georgiev was in net that game. I don't have my notes here in front of me.
He's been playing a lot lately. Yeah,
he has been, and he's played very well. Yeah. I'm very encouraged. That's one of the bright spots. I'm going to hope that the Rangers actually keep him and make Andrei Pavlik have to contest for his job back. He's played that well.
I would say go with Georgiev and Henrik next year.
Yeah, yep, and make Pavlik have to work, come back and have to work to get his job back. And he may. Anyways, we'll move on from there. The next game was against the Tampa Bay Lightning on the 8th, which was, I think it was last Thursday night. Wayne, I'm sitting here trying to put it together, but it was a game televised, I believe, on the NHL Network. I'm not sure, but I remember watching that game, and I watched Tampa Bay just dissect us. They were ahead 5-1 at the end of the second period, and I felt like, well, we're not going to make the playoffs. We're just not going to make it, and just was disappointed, kind of disheartened. But I was encouraged again that we came out in the third period and scored 2 goals on Tampa Bay. Came back. The team didn't give up. They came back and scored 2 goals. Tampa Bay odds on right now on my power rankings, they're the best team in the NHL. So I was pleased again.
Spoiler alert.
Our team. Yeah, I was pleased to see them come back, not give up in that game. We do have another game against Tampa at the end of the year, and so maybe we'll be able to. We have beat them this year, so maybe we'll be able to win the season series against them. In the game against Florida, 4-3 shootout loss. That was a great game. I don't know if you watched it, but I know that we played our hearts out in that game. A game, I really think we deserved to win, but we lost in the shootout. There was really no reason for the team to hold their heads after that game. We played awesome. Of course, we had a lot of support in the Miami area, once again, as we always do. And the whole game, we were in it. We played tough against them. Florida might make the playoffs, although I still am skeptical of that. It's getting late, and they are 5 points out. Last I saw, 4 to 5 points out behind Columbus. But they're making a go of it. We played very well against them.
Yeah, they have 3 games in hand on everybody else in the East, so that gives them a huge advantage, or at least gives them the opportunity to come back.
Right. They're playing great. They got some great players on their team as well, with Bukestad, Huberdeau, Hooby Dooby. They've got some real great players on their team. But we were with them the whole night and very easily could have won that game. A rare, sometimes I don't know how Henrik does it, but a rare shootout loss. He plays very well in shootouts. Then we get to this weekend, or it might have been Monday night. We played Carolina. It was on the 12th, excuse me. That was, I believe that was Monday night. We played Carolina. We played great in that game. Jimmy Vesey had a tremendous game. Scored a hat trick, his first hat trick in the NHL, and really was the player of the game. He and Buchnevich were awesome in that game. And I'm trying to get through this quickly. We played last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, which was a thrilling game. And I felt like they could have given up when they were down 2-0. But we came out in the third period and just hands down totally outplayed Pittsburgh. I'm not sure how good Pittsburgh really is to give up a lead like that, but they gave up a 2-0 lead. Georgiev was fantastic in net last night. Really wrestled the win away. Des Smith for Pittsburgh. That's while he's playing well. I wouldn't say he's. Last night I don't know how hard he was tested, but when he was tested hard, when we really played well in the third period, he didn't. And that's a weakness, Rich, that the Penguins have after their 2 Stanley Cup years. Their backup goal situation going into the playoffs is something that they're going to need to look very seriously at, and probably are looking very seriously at. But we won that game last night 4-3, and I think that's enough. I've talked long enough about the Rangers, but we're playing well. You know, I'm pleased with how we're playing. We could have the only game we were really out on, besides the Tampa Bay game, and came back in that one, was the Winnipeg game. Otherwise, we competed really well with each team we played this week. So I'm happy about that.
And I watched a little bit of that game last night, and I think I helped the Rangers last night because what I was doing, I was trying to keep my standings board that's behind me here up to date, and I went ahead when Pittsburgh was up 2-0. I went ahead and gave Pittsburgh the 2-0 win in hopes that it would jinx Pittsburgh into losing that game. And I had one point I had my board updated to show in Pittsburgh with the win and the Rangers with the loss, and I had to go ahead and change it at the end of that game because
that's good. I got to work this morning, and as you know, I get in at like the crack of dawn, and my coworker looked at me and he goes, "So Steve, is this going to be a good day?" I said, "Oh, it's going to be a great day. We beat the Penguins last night," and I got a real wry laugh out of him. So it was a good day all around.
Yep. And, talking about the goaltending situation of Pittsburgh, with Matt Murray being out, I don't know what the timetable is for his return. I think everyone's saying he'll be back by the playoffs, but I think that is really Pittsburgh's Achilles heel this year. If they're going to get knocked out in the playoffs, that's going to be a case where, the goaltending might be their Achilles heel. If Matt Murray gets hurt again this year in the playoffs, and he's gotten hurt each of the last 2 years in the playoffs.
Right.
And if that happens, there's no Marc-Andre Fleury to bail him out this time.
That's right.
So
and I listen, I'm just going to tell it to you like it is. I think DeSmith had moments, great moments last night. He played very, very good, made some great saves in the first couple of periods. But I think Georgiev was a better goalie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. I watched parts of that game. Yeah.
Yep. I'm happy we have Georgiev in net.
He made some nice saves last night. He really did.
He did. So,
I don't think DeSmith is their number 2 by any stretch. I think Jari is their clear number 2 in Pittsburgh, but he's no showstopper either. So,
right.
Both of them are doing admirably well, just trying to fill in the nets until Murray's back. But Murray's the clear number 1 there for sure.
Right.
So, yeah, all around a fairly up and down week for the Rangers, and yet they're not knocked out yet. They're still scratching and clawing, although I think they're a little too far behind to make a serious playoff run. They're going to need some help from teams above them. It's too many teams to pass at this point.
Right. I'm resolved to think. It's not something that is impossible, but I just don't. They have a lot of road games still. We play some tough teams. Tampa Bay is just one of them. We've got the Flyers coming up twice.
Yep.
We have Columbus coming up, I believe. We play St. Louis on the weekend,
yep.
And then we play against the Blue Jackets. So there's some very difficult games coming up.
And if they're
they have to win every one of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they're gonna make it to the playoffs, they're gonna have to lose no more than 2 more games the rest of the way, and then hope that everybody above them kind of falters a little bit. So the odds are long, but they're not quite out yet.
Right.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Bruins for a little bit.
Yep.
And they've had a busy week as well. Going back to the 6th, they had a 6-5 overtime win against Detroit. That's a game I missed because I was working. They also had a 3-2 win against Philadelphia on the 8th. That was an afternoon game. I completely missed that due to work. So, yeah, not off to a good start this week. But the Bruins have been rolling, and they've been winning games despite the fact that I haven't been able to witness them. And then they had a 7-4 win against Chicago, the first game of a home-and-home. That was also a home game. And then right after that, the next day, which was a Sunday, I believe, they went to Chicago and ended up losing 3-1. And that was a case where they just simply got outplayed by Chicago in that game. And then the game of the week for the Bruins, in terms of my interest anyway, was a game at Carolina on the 13th. That was what, Tuesday night?
Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night. I went to that game with a guy I work with who's a Carolina Hurricanes fan. So him and I both went to the game. He had his Brian Bickle jersey on. I had my green Bruins Patrice Bergeron jersey on. We went and sat up in the nosebleeds and watched that game from up there. And the first 50 minutes of that game was pretty disappointing on my end because with about 10 minutes to go in the third period, the Bruins were down 4-1. And so I'm thinking, they're done. He's already checking the standings to see, what with those 2 points, what's going to happen. Do the Hurricanes have a chance to catch the teams ahead of them, because Columbus and New Jersey and all the teams that are ahead of them in the standings were off on Tuesday night. So he's like, all right, here we go. We got 2 points. So he's already counting his chickens, right? So all of a sudden, Boston scores another goal. And then a few minutes later, they score another goal. And then before we knew it, it was tied 4-4. They scored 3 goals in about a minute and a half of clock time, probably about 5 minutes in real time to tie the game. And then the place was going nuts. I mean, there were so many Bruins fans there. The place, they were going absolutely crazy. It was amazing to see all the Bruins fans just jumping around, going nuts. It felt like we were in Boston. That's I mean, half the crowd. And right before, when it was 4-1, right before the Bruins scored their second goal, I looked down in the lower bowl and I could see a lot of Bruins fans just, going up the stairs, heading out of the arena. I'm like, these people are stupid. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And sure enough, the Bruins came back and tied it. And of course, once you leave the building, that the rules are at that rink, once you leave the building, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no return.
You got to listen to it in the car in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's right. You're listening to it in the car in the parking lot. So So yeah, the Bruins came back and tied it. Then they got the go-ahead goal and then right in the last minute of the game, they got the empty netter to seal the win. And it was probably, of all the Bruins games that I've gone to in person, and I've gone to quite a few. I've been to just about every Bruins game that has been played at Carolina since we moved down here. I try to go to every game, and I think I've only missed one that I can remember anyway. That's by far the best one I've seen yet, and then including all the games that I've seen in Boston when I was living up there. To see a 4-1, comeback, 3-goal deficit in the last 10 minutes of the game reminded me of the 2013 first round of the playoffs against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, of course, Leafs fans are going to be mad at me for bringing this up because it's still a sore point for them.
And I watched this game on TV. I remember this game very well.
The 2013 game?
Yeah. Down 3. Weren't you down 3-0?
They were down 4-1 in the third period. About the
in
same.
The series.
Oh, the series was tied 3-3. It was game 7.
Okay. I could have sworn you were down 3-0, came back and won that series 4-3, but I could be wrong.
Nope. They were down 4-1 with about the same amount of time left to go in the game. Little over 10 minutes to go in the game, game 7, and the Bruins came back and tied the game. It took them the entire 10 minutes though to get it tied. Not like Carolina the other night where they tied it. Within a couple of minutes of clock time, they had that game tied. There was still like 9-something left to go in the game when they tied it the other night. But the one in Toronto, they tied the game in the last minute of the game, took it to overtime, and then won the game in overtime and the series.
Wow.
So that series is still a very sore point for Toronto, even now. But that game reminded me a lot of that game. So. It was an amazing game the other night to witness in person. Of course, the guy that I was with was bummed, and he's still bummed. I saw him today because not only did that game, the nature of the loss really hurt, but the fact that Carolina really needed those 2 points to keep their playoff hopes alive. It was pretty much, in my mind, it was the final nail in the coffin for Carolina in terms of playoff hopes.
Yeah.
So
they've had a great season, though, Wayne. They have played into the playoff contention. But I don't know. I think Carolina is going to hang around until the last week of the season, and they've got a chance. They've got a real good chance that they can crack that top 8, maybe get in flip places with Columbus or something, or perhaps New Jersey. They're definitely in a much better position of contention than a team like the New York Rangers or even the New York Islanders. Put them in that position there. I don't think the Islanders are going to make the playoffs. So I think that Carolina stands a very good chance they can still make it.
So, well, that's good. And the thing with Carolina, the thing that's just been so frustrating with them is in the games that they needed, and quite frankly, they needed to get 2 points against the Rangers. They got the 2 points against Chicago earlier in the week, and they, it's going to be hard to get 2 points against Minnesota at Minnesota. But if they could have snuck out a point there, they just gave up too many points along the way.
Yeah, they got into the, I wouldn't say that they shoot themselves in the foot, Wayne. I would say that at times they seem to be, when the momentum swings come in the game, Carolina is very fragile to that.
Yep.
They seem to be a team that when hit by, they know it's coming. It's almost like they because each and every hockey game has it. When the momentum swings and goes against them, they seem to be a fragile team at that point. And they don't seem to be able to recover from that and become consistent, stop the bleeding and get it going again. And, they gave up 1 goal. Or they didn't even give up a goal. The momentum swung and they were able to hold their own. At least that's how it felt the other night in the Rangers game. When Jimmy Vesey came down the ice and hit that shot, that blistering slap shot right over Darling's shoulder, that really, really put them out.
Yeah.
They couldn't come back from that. And they just, that was it. And, so that's where I see them as a team, at least if I use that game as an example. that they can still shore it up and make the playoffs. That's what they got to do. Yep. When you feel that momentum swing, stop the bleeding, as little damage as possible, turn around, get it going again, and don't look back.
Well, what I'm amazed at is the other night, for example, how quickly the Bruins came back. I was expecting them to call a timeout when they got to within one. When they scored 2 goals, bang bang, 4-1, 4-2, or 4-2, 4-3. After that, the third Bruin goal, which happened, the second and the third goal happened like less than a minute. That's where, if I'm the coach of the Hurricanes, I'm going, timeout here. We got to get control. He didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's thinking, save that timeout in case you need to challenge a goal.
Right.
Because if you don't have the timeout, I think you lose the ability to challenge. I think that's the way the rule is on goalie interference.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Well, that's a good point. And Wayne, I think we talked about this on the show before, and I don't want to digress. The NHL really needs to have 2 timeouts in a game for each team. I really think that a second timeout for each team helps tremendously. Although you do have instances where the team does get a second timeout if they coach a challenge. I'm talking about being able to use a timeout for a second time in a game is important. But regardless,
or just don't tie any challenges to timeouts. Make it penalty across the board. If you're, you can challenge as many times as you want, but for each challenge that you're wrong, it's 2-minute penalty.
Right.
Across the board. And don't tie it to the timeout. Keep the one, because they already get plenty of timeouts. If you think of all those TV timeouts.
Yeah, there's TV timeouts.
They're getting three TV timeouts a period.
Right.
And the whole time, both teams are at their benches, and they're discussing stuff during those.
Sure.
So they're essentially having built-in TV timeouts every period. I mean, even the goalies are coming to the bench during those timeouts. And, we don't see it on TV because they're in commercial break. But when you actually go to the games and you're seeing the players, all the players during those TV timeouts are going to the bench, and the coach is down on the floor, right up against the boards, discussing this, discussing that. So as far as that goes, they have plenty of timeouts that they can use to get the troops together and discuss strategies and whatnot.
I've seen it before though, and it's not a rare occurrence that a coach has to use his timeout in the first period.
Yep.
Because the team will come out and they will not be ready.
Yep.
And the 2-3 goals down. It happened to the Rangers not too long ago. We were 3 goals down early on in the game against and I'm going back like 3 or 4 weeks, but the team scored 3 goals on us in the first 4 minutes of the game. Vigneault used his timeout, and the rest of the game we were fighting back. It was 3-2, but we could never get back. And that's what I'm saying is, in games like that where they could need, a second timeout would have been very valuable. Come third period or something like that, where they needed to use a timeout, either to rest the players or for whatever reason, the second timeout is there.
Yeah.
But it's neither here nor there. I understand what you're saying, and they do have a lot of chances during TV games.
All right, we were talking right along there, and my internet just completely blew up, or just pretty much just disappeared. All my computers, my TV, everything went offline all at the same time, and we probably lost a good 20 minutes there. So, so we're back, and we will continue on. We were talking about the Hurricanes, but we pretty much were finishing up with that. So let's go ahead and move on to talking about the standings. The way they are right now. And if you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, top 3 teams continue to be Washington, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, although Pittsburgh and Washington are now both tied for first at 85 points, and they're 4 points up on Philly. And then the wild cards are both also currently Metropolitan Division teams, and that's New Jersey and Columbus. New Jersey's only a point behind Philadelphia at 80, and Columbus is at 79. And then below Columbus in the wild card is Florida with 75, Carolina with 71, the Rangers with 71, Islanders 70, Montreal 64, Detroit 63, Ottawa 61, and Buffalo at 56. So there's a gap beginning to form here, or actually a couple gaps is a 4-point gap from Florida to Columbus. But Columbus has 3 games in hand on them. But Florida can't afford to fall further behind. Trouble with Florida is they've got to play the Boston Bruins 4 more times. They haven't played each other yet. Tonight's the first game against each other of the season. Now, they had another game earlier in the season that got postponed, and that's tacked on to the end of the regular season, which is why they haven't played each other yet. But they've got 4 games against each other. Game 1 is tonight. And so Florida's got a tough schedule ahead of them in terms of 4 of their remaining games are against the Boston Bruins. But as of right now, I just looked. I had the game on when we were having our technical difficulties there, and the Florida Panthers are beating the Bruins right now 2-0. But we learned the other night that's 2-0 is not a safe lead against the Boston Bruins.
Right.
But and then of course from Florida to Carolina, there's a 4-point gap, and this is why I say Carolina is out. Yeah, Carolina is only 4 points behind Florida. But they're 8 points behind Columbus, who's sitting in that second wild card.
Right.
And they have they have played 3 more games than Florida, so Florida should expand that lead even more. So in my mind, the East is down to basically a 3-team race for 2 wild card spots already.
And you might be right. I think the way Carolina has been playing recently, with 3-6-1 in their last 10, they've lost 2 in a row. They didn't play well against us. They really didn't. You might be right. However, because we give Carolina a tremendous amount of love on this show, I am not willing to throw in the towel only with them yet. I think our season is over. You can put a fork in the Rangers. We'd have to win every game to make it. But I think Carolina doesn't have to win every game. They can come out there. They're the team that can lose a game or 2 and still perhaps catch either Columbus, New Jersey, or Florida and make the playoffs. However, they've got to go on a 9-1 in their next 10.
Yep.
Can they do it? Yeah, they can do it. Carolina can do it, but that's what they have to do to get in. Yeah. I think the Rangers, the Islanders, every team right on down the line is out. I'm surprised Florida has made the comeback that they have. Vincent Trocheck is playing very well.
Yep.
They've really, and Roberto Luongo is doing very well, and that may be the key to Florida's comeback.
Yep.
Is Roberto Luongo is playing very well.
Now a few days ago, Florida was only 1 point back of the wild card, and they had those games in hand, and they've since fallen off there a little bit. And that's because Columbus has won 5 in a row too.
And again, I remember if you go back in our podcast two ago, I made the contention that I did not think the Florida Panthers could make it. And now they're 8-1-1.
Yep.
Well, they got to turn around and do that again.
Yep.
To make the playoffs.
Yep.
They got to turn around and do that again. In this hotly contested, got to play 4 times against Boston, all the stress and pressure of the final of the season, the wear and tear of the NHL. Maybe they will. But it's not going to be easy for Florida.
No.
Carolina has nothing to lose. They haven't been in playoffs for years. So that's my reasoning. It's probably wrong.
Yep.
But that's why I say that.
Yeah, Carolina's got 12 games to go. They're 8 points back. I just don't see because if Florida continues to stay hot, Columbus continues to stay hot. The only chance that Carolina's got at getting into the playoffs is Philadelphia, who's been struggling, and New Jersey, who's been struggling, have both got to fall out of the playoff race. And if you look at Carolina, they're 9 points behind New Jersey. And they're 10 points behind Philadelphia with 12 to play. I think Carolina is just simply going to run out of games. Even if they go on a run and win 10 of their last 12 games or 11 of their last 12 games, they're going to need both New Jersey and Philadelphia. They're going to need 2 of those 4 teams, either Philly, Columbus, Florida, or New Jersey. 2 of those 4 teams are going to have a below 500 finish in order for Carolina to catch them. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And I think the players,
it's a very tall task.
And I think the players on the Carolina Hurricanes after the Bruins game, losing to the Rangers, have realized that, and you could see it all over their faces in the interviews after the Boston game too. That that was probably the final straw. So yeah, the East is kind of winding down. With all but Florida, really the only team that's on the outside that has a realistic shot of getting in. The East is pretty much sewn up. It's all about seedings at this point. And of course, we didn't talk about it, but the Atlantic top three, of course, continues to be Tampa Bay, Boston, and Toronto. And I think it's going to finish in that order, the way things are looking right now. All right, let's go out west. Nashville, Winnipeg, and Minnesota are the top three in the Central. And those have been changing almost on a daily basis because Anaheim keeps popping in and out, and Calgary keeps popping in and out. So everything's so close there in the Central and the West and the Pacific. So the way it stands as of right now, Nashville's at 100, Winnipeg's at 92, Minnesota's at 85. In the Pacific, it's Vegas with 95, San Jose with 85, LA with 82. The wild cards right now are Dallas at 83, Colorado at 82, and then on the outside looking in are Anaheim with 82, Calgary with 80, St. Louis at 79, and then there's a big drop down to Chicago, who's at 68, Edmonton at 65, Vancouver at 59, and Arizona at 57. Now, according to NHL.com, they are saying that Vancouver and Arizona have both been mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. I calculated last night that Vancouver definitely was, and I did a video for the YouTube channel that talks about Vancouver, how their roster sits, who they got going into free agency, prospects, draft picks, that kind of stuff. It's about a 10 to 12 minute video just taking a quick look at that team and how they stand as of right now. And I'm going to continue to do that with each team as they get eliminated. Do a quick 10 to 15 minute video that basically takes a snapshot at the team at that moment and where they go from here kind of video. So I've already done the Vancouver one, put it up, and it looks like I need to do Arizona. I knew I was going to have to do it probably this week, but it looks like Arizona has already been eliminated as well, so I need to get that one done and get it up there. But suffice to say, Vancouver and Arizona now, according to NHL.com, is officially eliminated. And as far as I could tell, looking at both those teams, Arizona's in a better spot than Vancouver. Number one, they've been playing well lately, and Vancouver really hasn't. And number two, Arizona's prospects, the system that they've got set up there, at least in terms of how many first and second round draft picks they have in their organization, they're in much, much better shape than Vancouver is. Arizona has far more prospects, and they have plenty of cap space to play with. Vancouver has much fewer prospects, even though they've got Besser and a couple of the other younger guys that have already started playing with the team, but they're right up against the cap. And I think that is a lot to do with the $7+ million that the Sedin twins are making each. But both of those players come off of free agency this year, or go into free agency this year. Now everybody's saying that they're going to stay put in Vancouver, but Vancouver is going to have to sign them at a much, much more cap-friendly amount if Vancouver is going to want to make any serious dents into their improvement process. Otherwise, Arizona is going to leapfrog them next year. Right. But enough about the teams that are out. We can get to them later. So, as far as the playoff race goes, I've got Minnesota, LA, San Jose, Dallas, Colorado, Anaheim, Calgary, and St. Louis all battling with each other.
Right.
They're all within 5 points of each other, 6 points of each other right now.
Right.
So the West is going to be much more fun to watch down the stretch in terms of playoff seedings. And my standings board, I'm having to move team logos all around that board in the West, whereas the East has really not moved all that much. Yeah. Over the past couple of weeks, because at one point you got St. Louis and Calgary, they can start out of the playoffs, and then by the end of a weekend they're in a wild card spot, or they're in a third spot. So that's how close all these teams are. So it's going to be much more fun to watch things down the stretch in the West.
I agree.
Sure.
5 teams playing for 2 slots.
Essentially, yep. And some of those teams that are currently Anaheim, Calgary, and St. Louis are currently on the outside looking in. Any one of those teams could end up in the top 3 in their respective divisions too.
Oh, that's correct. In the Pacific, either one, any one of them could. You're right.
So San Jose's not safe. LA's not safe. Minnesota's not safe.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm going to make predictions or not. I don't know that St. Louis is going to make it. Maybe they will. Maybe they go on a tear here and really.
They have been sputtering a lot. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10, but
yeah. I see it as being either Calgary, Anaheim, and it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a fun last couple of weeks here to watch. So we'll see what happens. They're all playing about the same in that race. Dallas is not doing well in their last 10.
No, they've been struggling as well. No, it's just going to be fun. Anytime any of these teams play each other now, I'm staying up late to watch it. I got to stop doing that because I know when the playoffs come around, I'm going to try to watch every game in the playoffs, and then I'm going to be losing sleep all over the place. But I'm already starting because the hockey's so good out there in the West with those teams battling each other. In the East, things seem to be winding down a bit, but
right,
because now only really Florida is the outside team that's trying to get back in. So, all right. Well, enough about that. We've yammered on enough about this. We got to go on to talking about some of the stories going on around the league.
Right.
And we have some transactions that have taken place. Brian McClellan has signed a contract to remain GM of the Capitals. The team confirmed on Friday. He's in the final season of his contract. He was promoted to GM back in May of 2014 after serving assistant GM for 7 seasons under George McPhee. And George McPhee was fired after the Capitals failed to make the playoffs in 2013-14. I kind of remember that. Washington has qualified for the playoffs in each of the last 3 seasons under McClellan, winning the President's Trophy in 2016 and 2017. But the Capitals, of course, have not advanced past the second round of the playoffs since making their lone Stanley Cup final appearance in 97-98. And, of course, Coach Barry Trotz's future remains unclear. He's in his fifth in NHL history with 750 wins and 1,509 games coach. But I think Trotz, too, has struggled to get out of the second round personally in his coaching career. So anyway, Capitals seem to be happy with McClellan, and they're going to keep him around for a little while longer. But I think Coach Trotz is on the hot seat for the Capitals. I think if they fail to get past Pittsburgh again this year, you may see them make a change.
If they play Pittsburgh.
Yeah, if they play Pittsburgh.
Yeah, if they wind up not playing Pittsburgh, I don't know. I think Barry Trotz stays. Because and the reason I say that is strictly with his relationship with Alex Ovechkin. They do well together.
Yep.
Trotz and Ovechkin, there's a camaraderie there that I think Ovechkin likes playing for Barry Trotz, and I think that's what's saving him.
Yep. So, well, good. All right. In other GM news, this one happened right after we got done podcasting on the last podcast that we did. And it comes out of Carolina, our local team, and Ron Francis is no longer the GM of the Carolina Hurricanes. He has become the Hurricanes' president of hockey operations, and Carolina will immediately begin a new search for GM who will report directly to owner Tom Dundon. Couple of quotes from Dundon. He said, "Since I took control of the team, I've had a good chance to be around and assess the operations," Dundon said. "There are a lot of good people working in the organization, but I feel a change in direction is needed when it comes to hockey personnel decisions. Ron is a smart and talented hockey man. I'm glad that he'll continue to be a part of the team, serving in his new role." Francis has been the GM since 2014 when he replaced Jim Rutherford. He's been in the Carolina management for 12 seasons. Carolina has made the Stanley Cup playoffs just once since winning the Cup in 2005 and 2006. And the Hurricanes are obviously not going to make it this year. A couple more quotes. "We're just trying to break up the hockey stuff," he said. "We're undermanned there. We could stand to continue to evolve in a good way to get more throughput." The following day, Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon fielded a bunch of phone calls from the media in the aftermath of the announcement last Wednesday that the Hurricanes are changing their GM. Dundon was aware before these phone calls of the outside perception he wants to be hands-on in all decisions, including involving hockey operations, and said, "I think short-term it's probably accurate, but but he said that's not the long-term plan. I think it's appropriate right now that I challenge and question everything we do so we can get a process that everyone buys into and we're comfortable with, Dundon said. Once we do, I'll be less likely to be involved with things that I think are working properly. Less than 2 months after taking over, Dundon is far from satisfied with how things are working. This wasn't strategic that, we need to do something. This was not that, Dundon said. I really hope we start winning. I know the players care. I know they're trying. I'm actually happiest about that. They're frustrated. You've got to realize that they work harder than we do, and they sacrifice a lot. They care. They're trying hard. I'm not upset with anybody on the ice. But as far as the long-term structure Dundon is trying to establish, he said he didn't believe he and Francis, who was in his fourth season as GM, were on the same page. Over time, he and I just kind of agreed that our styles were such that team president would be a better role for him, and the organization probably could use more throughout. There's so much to do. It was just a better fit for everybody. Francis was methodical in rebuilding the Hurricanes through the NHL draft and smaller trades, but wasn't able to get them into the playoffs. Though Dundon said that he and Francis agreed on most things, they don't agree on the approach. I want someone collaborative, someone aggressive, a good fit for how we're going to go about making decisions. He said listing the qualities he likes in a Hurricanes GM, someone comfortable with the decision-making process of where we take lots of input and ultimately, hopefully, the decisions are organizational. I think that's probably what happens in most organizations. Just someone who's comfortable acquiring information, whether it's from scouts and other GMs and other people in the league, and their own eye, and putting together a process that we can use to continue to improve the team. Although Dundon has talked about expanding the Hurricanes analytics stack, he said he doesn't need the GM to be an analytics guy, because I don't think that works, he said. I think you need a hockey guy who can work with the analytics people to challenge their thoughts. And then the article goes on and on. Dundon said he values Francis's opinion and knowledge and will continue to utilize him as an asset. I know I want his opinions, and it isn't about whether he thinks he's smart and a good judgment, he said. It's just about the right fit on a day-to-day basis. So, anyway, what's your take on all of this?
I don't. And Wayne, I'll be honest with you. I did not know. I did not know about Ron Francis and Tom Dundon until this podcast. Okay, but I don't. I think what I read into this is Ron Francis is not going to be in the same situation that he's been in for the last few years with the Hurricanes by taking over as president of hockey operations. Case in point, I look at the Rangers right now. Jeff Gorton is the guy making the decisions come trade deadline time.
Yep.
And you have a guy in Glenn Sather who has unbelievable relationship with the owner of the team, Mr. Dolan. And so I don't think he'll ever be fired, okay? But Jeff Gorton is the guy making all the decisions and doing all the work. And that may be what happens here in Carolina.
Yeah, I think what's ultimately happening is, he gave Francis a shot, and apparently just the writing on the wall that I'm reading anyway is he's not happy with that Francis wasn't aggressive enough at the trade deadline. Essentially, it was well known that they were trying to add players to get them over the hump and to make a playoff run. They ultimately didn't. Essentially, they made one trade at the trade deadline, but it was pretty much two minor league players. There was no big blockbuster trades, and there quite frankly hasn't been any the entire time that Francis was with the team. There was no real big, huge trades out there. It was player for player trades. It was a lot of small trades, players for picks for players, that kind of stuff. But no real big, huge, splashes of trades. And I think what this new owner wants is he wants to make a big splash. So he's going to go out and get his guy. There's been a lot of reports that he's talked to people in the Dallas area that used to be involved with the Stars. Dave Tippett, I think, is a name that has come up. Not that they're going to hire him, but he can, Dundon has asked him of many questions, talked to him a lot about different things hockey-wise. And they're gonna go through and try to find a GM. They're looking to get one as soon as possible, although probably some of the people that they want to talk to, I know they were already talked to the assistant GM for the LA Kings. His name escapes me at the moment, but he's already turned down the job. And there's going to be a lot of candidates out there that are basically just not going to be interested in talking to anyone until the season's over.
Right.
But I think they're going to find somebody and put them in place before the draft, because obviously he wants a hockey guy in there too.
And they'll find somebody, Wayne.
Yeah.
They'll find somebody.
Oh yeah, they'll find somebody.
They'll find somebody.
So and he's just trying to do some things to really jumpstart the team. Now, once they do get a GM, I think Bill Peters' days are numbered, because whoever the GM ultimately is going to be, that guy is going to want to bring in his guy to coach the team,
right?
Instead of taking the existing coach. Even though Dunnan has said on record that he's happy with the job that Bill Peters has done so far, I still think there's a change of coach coming shortly after the GM. I just see it happening, because this team is not performing as well as it should.
Right.
So I don't know who you can blame that on, the players, the coaches, whoever it is. They've got to turn it around, because this team is chock full of a lot of high-end prospects, and they're still not getting into the playoffs. And in order to win something, you got to get to the playoffs first.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's extremely difficult to do, Wayne.
These days it is.
The Metro division is brutal.
Yep.
It's a brutal division. This entire season, we've sat here and watched the Metro division beat up on each other and beat up on each other and beat up on each other all practically since December.
Yep.
It has not let up until right around now.
Yep.
So it's very difficult to make. That's a tall task to make one of the top 5 teams in the division, and there's no guarantee that Florida may make it a 4-4, but they're the only team that can.
Yeah.
So
I guess we'll wait and see what is going to happen with the Hurricanes. All right, let's move on. We got some injuries. Actually, quite a few injuries. Not quite as many as last week, but we'll fly through them here pretty quick. Winnipeg Jets goaltender Steve Mason had arthroscopic surgery on his knee on Monday and is expected to be sidelined 2 to 3 weeks. He missed 21 games with an upper body injury before returning to play against Rangers on March 6th. Despite injuring his knee during that game, Mason made 31 saves to post his 34th career shutout in a 3-0 victory. So Mason's the backup there. Hellebuck's the starter, so they'll just plug in somebody else for the backup. All right, Buffalo Sabres forward Kyle Oposo will be out indefinitely because of a concussion. Oposo was injured in a collision with Ottawa Senators forward Bobby Ryan during the second period of the Sabres' 4-3 shootout win on Tuesday. Oposo was hospitalized in March 2017 with what he later described as complications from medication used after being treated for a concussion. Oposo, in his second season of a 7-year contract he signed with Buffalo as an unrestricted free agent, has 38 points in 65 games this year. So the concussion issues seem to be mounting up with him.
Yep.
I'm wondering if he's going to be the next player that has his career shortened by them.
Well, that'd be a shame if that does happen. That'd be a shame. He's a strong man too.
All right. I'm going to skip the next one. It's Brian Rust. I saw he played last night, so we're not even going to talk about his injury, but he had a concussion. But he played last night. All right, Martin Hansel will have a spinal fusion surgery in the coming days and could miss the start of next season for the Dallas Stars. Recovery time for the surgery is 6 to 7 months, GM Jim Nils said. Hansel had 10 points in 38 games this season. He's missed 29 games because of the injury. Nils said Hansel's initial injury occurred late in November. He had 3 injection treatments to try to play through the pain. It was just something that slowly came upon, and it's kind of got worse and worse. He was getting these injections to try to manage it, and it finally got to the point where the injections didn't help anymore. And Hansel has a history of back injuries. He had surgery to repair a herniated disc back in July of 2008 and another back surgery in February 2015. So I'm wondering if that will end up shortening his career, although Hansel's been around a while, so he's 31.
Spinal fusion, though, is that's a tough surgery there, Wayne.
Yeah.
When that happens, you are a different person. I had an uncle who had several spinal fusions, and you never really the same person. I don't think the doctors have really truly figured out the back yet. When you have an injury to your back, that's tough and scary if you're a professional athlete.
Yep, because a lot of times it affects them the rest of their career.
Yep.
So unfortunately,
let's hope and pray that's not the case for Martin Hansel. I'm hoping that. Yeah.
Nope, hoping he comes back. All right, another goaltender. Carter Hutton didn't play last Thursday after he injured his neck. Jake Allen got the start, and a kid by the name of Ben Wexler ended up being the emergency backup for that game. So another one of those emergency backups where they just pull some kid off out of the stands and puts him in
throw
the net.
Jersey on him.
Yep. And I haven't heard if Hutton is back to playing yet, but it looked like he was going to be day-to-day for a while. All right, Jared Spurgeon is out for 4 weeks with a partial tear of his right hamstring. The Philadelphia Wild defenseman was injured in the third period of a 5-1 loss to the Colorado Avalanche on Tuesday. He appeared to lose an edge playing the puck, and his leg split before he fell to the boards. Yeah, I saw that fall. It looked painful. Spurgeon has 37 points in 61 games this year. He ranks second on the Wild with ice time with 24 minutes and 33 seconds behind defenseman Ryan Suter. Spurgeon's 13 power play points are second among Wild defensemen behind Suter's 21. So as long as they get him back 4 weeks, that might cut into the playoffs for them. 4 weeks from now, we'll be in the middle of round one of the playoffs. All right, Eric Gudbranson has been removed from the Vancouver Canucks active roster to have shoulder surgery. He is expected to be out for the rest of the season. He injured his left shoulder during a game against the Penguins on November 22nd and missed 12 games before returning December 19th and playing 31 more. He said the Canucks said in a statement that treatment and rehabilitation allowed Gudbranson to play, but that the 26-year-old decided to have surgery. After consulting with the Vancouver medical staff, Gudbranson has 2 goals, 3 assists, and a -7 in 52 games this year. So he'll be out probably the rest of the year for sure if he's going to have surgery. All right, Oscar Klefbom will have season-ending surgery on his left shoulder, but the defenseman will continue to play until the procedure is scheduled. Klefbom will return to the lineup against the San Jose Sharks on Rogers Place on Wednesday, and he did play last night. I watched part of that game. So looks like with his shoulder, it's a case where he can't damage it any further by playing, but they need to have surgery to correct it. So they'll schedule the surgery, and at that point, he'll be out for the year. So he may get another game or two in before that happens. All right, Calle Jarnkrok will miss the rest of the regular season for the Predators in an upper body injury. He was injured after a hit from Winnipeg Jets forward Andrew Kopp in the third period of the Predators' 3-1 win on Tuesday and did not return. He has 35 points in 68 games this season, so Predators will want him back for sure for the playoffs. We'll see if they make it back in time. And finally, coming out of the Hurricanes' huge comeback by the Bruins, they lost 3 players in the process. Zdeno Chara, Torrey Krug, and Jake DeBrusk are all day-to-day with various injuries. And I don't know about Krug because I have the game on my TV above me, but I haven't really been watching it because we're podcasting. But I don't know about Krug. He was a game-time decision, but Chara and DeBrusk were already ruled out for tonight's game for sure and Saturday's game. So on top of all the injuries that the Bruins have, and now it looks like there might be a suspension. I saw something of David Backes got another match penalty for a hit tonight, so there may be another suspension for him coming along. Mm-hmm. Bruins just keep racking up missed games right now. Hope they get it out of their system before the playoffs start. All right, let's move on to suspensions and fines. There's quite a few of those this week. Coyotes defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson was fined $5,000 for slashing Colorado Avalanche forward Sven Andrighetto, which happened in a game on March 10th in Denver. It occurred at 13:54 of the third period. He was assessed minor penalties for slashing and cross-checking on the play. I didn't see that play, so can't really comment on that. Arizona Coyotes forward Nick Cousins has been fined $2,000 as a supplementary discipline under Rule 64. That's the diving embellishment rule. He was issued a warning following an incident flagged by the hockey operations in a game against the Predators on January 4th. And his second citation, which triggers the fine, was issued for an incident at 13:42 of the second period during NHL game number 988 against the Wild on March 1st. Cousins and Minnesota defenseman Nick Seeler received offsetting minor penalties on the play. So it was the typical, called one for the interference, the other for the embellishment.
Right.
And speaking of embellishment, Boston Bruins forward Brad Marchand, it seems like he's in here every week, has been fined $2,000 for the Rule 64, which is a diving embellishment rule. That same night that Cousins did his, March 1st, Marchand against the Tampa Bay Lightning his warning came from against the Tampa Bay Lightning on November 29th. The second one was against the Pittsburgh Penguins on March 1st. And, of course, they gave the matching penalties on that. Olli Mata got a tripping penalty. Marchand got the embellishment on the play. Mm-hmm. And then finally another Bruins suspension, and this is not talking about tonight. This one happened a week or two ago. Boston Bruins forward David Backes was suspended for 3 games without pay for interference against Detroit Red Wings forward Franz Nielsen during game number 1020 in Boston on Tuesday, March 6th. The incident occurred at 19:44 of the first period. He was assessed a minor penalty for roughing, and he will forfeit $96,774. And I didn't see the play that they're talking about tonight, but Backes tonight apparently received a match penalty for a hit on one of the Florida Panthers' star players, and I guess we'll see if he gets another suspension.
Yes.
Out of that. And I haven't seen the play, so I can't comment on the one from tonight. But I did see the one from the other suspension, and it was a late hit. It was one of those where Nielsen got rid of the puck to a teammate, and it was well after the hit. It was avoidable, and head was the primary point of contact on Nielsen, so that is why it triggered a 3-game suspension. I didn't agree with it. I thought it should have been 1 or 2 at the most, but I might be a little bit biased. All right, let's move on to other interesting stories of the week.
Yes.
Arizona Coyotes coach Rick Tocchet is taking a leave of absence to deal with family illness. Family comes first, Coyotes general manager John Shaka said in a statement. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Tocchet family as he deals with this personal matter. It's important he takes the time to be with his family. John McClain, named Coyotes assistant on July 26th, will serve as coach until Tocchet returns. The Coyotes, who have a 22-35-11 record in Tocchet's first season, are 4-1-1 in their past 6 games and 10-3-2 in their past 15, including a 1-0 win against the Vancouver Canucks on Sunday. Goaltender Matt Hutchinson was called up from Manitoba, the American Hockey League, and will back up Connor Hellebuck when the Jets face the Capitals on Monday. So all kinds of stuff going on with the Coyotes there, but they're continuing to win despite all that.
Yeah, real quickly, there are very, very few former players from the New Jersey Devils that I'll ever tell you that I liked. But, of course, Marty Brodeur is a stand-up class guy, and I think he's one of the – but John McClain is a cool guy as well. And so I wish him the best in that endeavor. I think he may be an NHL coach for somebody one day, real soon maybe. So
well, maybe the Carolina Hurricanes.
You never know. You never know.
All right.
Ken Danico's a pretty cool guy as well. But other than that, you can take the whole bunch of them. I don't want to go on about the New Jersey Devils. Let's move on.
Yeah, right. And the Montreal Canadiens, right? All right. A guy that we have seen play twice so far this year had a big week this week.
He did, and I saw it, and I was really, really amazed.
Alex Nedeljkovic won't stop scoring goals, the headline reads. Carolina Hurricanes prospect scored his second goal in as many seasons, this time shooting the puck into an empty net for Charlotte of the American Hockey League in its 7-3 win against Hartford. With Charlotte ahead 6-3 and about 2 minutes remaining, Nedeljkovic fielded a dump in and shot the puck down the ice and into an empty net, whipping the crowd at Bojangles Coliseum into a frenzy. He skated to the bench to celebrate, where his teammates and coaches mobbed him. I was ecstatic, Nedeljkovic told Checkers website, the only thing I wanted to take from scoring last season was just go to the bench and celebrate with those guys because I didn't do that last year. When I saw the puck was going in, I jumped and was throwing my hands in the air. I was like a little kid again. It was Nedeljkovic's first goal in the AHL, but he scored for Florida of the ECHL, which is the Florida Everblades, last season and became the 12th goalie to score in that league's history. Nedeljkovic joined Ron Hextall, Martin Brodeur, Chris Mason, and Mike Smith as goalies with multiple goals in North American professional hockey games. So congrats to him on that. Yep. And we're looking forward. I've been saying for a while now, the Hurricanes with their goaltending issues need to give him a shot. They need to get him up. Now that they're pretty much out of the playoffs, they need to get him up and give him some ice time and see what he can do at the NHL level because he's doing well down there in the A. So we all know he's a good goalie down there. Yep. It's time to see what he can do up here.
Looking forward to our next game down there, too, to watch the Checkers, whenever that may be.
Yeah, it's fun to go to that arena. It really is.
Bojangles Coliseum, great place to go. If you're listening to this podcast and you are a Carolina Hurricanes fan and you haven't been there, you're missing a jewel of a place to go watch a game.
Yep, I agree. Because it's a fun place, and it's not as expensive as a Hurricanes game either.
That's right.
And they have just as much fun. All right, so I wanted to also make a note that the record for longest game longest hockey game, the Guinness Book of World Record, was set earlier this month. They skated. There was a group in Edmonton, Alberta, led by Dr. Brent Sake, who built a rink basically at his house, in order to facilitate this game. They played a game that lasted from February 9th to the 19th. 40 players laced up their skates and took the ice for 11 days, practically playing 24/7, all to raise money for the Alberta Cancer Foundation. They raised $1.2 million, which they had a goal of $2 million, and they raised it for the Alberta Cancer Foundation and the Cross Cancer Institute to basically, it's all cancer research. So 40 different players played for 251 hours, 9 minutes on Sake's outdoor rink, and they call the rink Sakers Acres, in east of the Edmonton suburb of Sherwood Park, where the game's been held since 2008. That's longer than the total of 250 hours, 37 minutes, and 7 seconds achieved indoors by a cancer fundraising group in Buffalo, from June 22nd to July 3rd. A real game of regular hockey rules and 4 on-ice officials must be played with 2 teams of 20 players. 5 skaters and a goalie must be in play at all times for each team, and a video feed must be provided to the Guinness officials. Once the game starts, no participant may leave the property until it's finished. If someone is injured and can't continue, no substitutes are allowed. Each player must be photographed on the ice at the beginning and end of the game. The ice may be cleaned and resurfaced for 10 minutes after every hour of continuous play. All of that dictates a schedule for players that involves 4, 5, or 6-hour shifts on duty, alternating with rest and sleeping periods. Most days, each player will play between 14 and 16 hours. For the record, the red team won the game 1,830 to 1,691 in that game.
Yeah.
So, and this is something they basically do either every year or every other year. They play this really long game, and it's become a thing in Edmonton. They're becoming well known. In fact, this time around, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Connor McDavid actually stopped in on their own time to check the place out and to check on the progress of the game.
Yeah, so that's unbelievable. And
they donated, through the team, they donated a bunch of items, sign sticks, jerseys, that kind of stuff for the silent auction to help raise money for the. But they raised a lot of money, and there's a link to the article about this on the show notes of this podcast, and it's a good read. There's a lot of stories in there of different people, how cancer has touched their lives, and better have a box of tissues next to you because there's some stories there that are real tearjerkers. So
absolutely.
All right, next story. We're on a mission and looking for the best EA Sports NHL 18 gamers. bragging rights, a $100,000 cash prize pool, tickets to the 2018 NHL Awards, and capturing the championship trophy in Las Vegas are all up for grabs when the NHL crowns its first ever esports champion in June. A couple days ago, the NHL announced that registration for the 2018 NHL Gaming World Championship, an esports bracket-style tournament, is now open, and players can register. There's a link right on the show notes, and it's also on NHL.com. So any of you out there that love to play NHL, EA Sports NHL 2018, put your money where your mouth is and join this tournament, because they basically start off with, I read the details of it, and they start off with, now I'm by no means, I haven't even played NHL 18. I think the last version of the game I played was NHL 16. I just haven't played it. It basically, you can start, anybody with a PlayStation 4 can, or whatever the latest PlayStation is now, can ultimately end up on stage at the NHL Awards receiving the championship trophy for this tournament. So big opportunity for all the gamers out there.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to honors and milestones. We had some milestones this week. Alex Ovechkin got his 600th goal of his career this week. And he's the fourth player to do it in fewer than 1,000 games. He did it in 990. Gretzky did it in 718. Lemieux did it in 719. And Brett Hull did it in 900. Everybody who reached the 600th goal mark did it in more than 1,000 games. So
I think that's a very telling record. I don't know that the way the game is played now, the game will have to change for someone to score 600 goals in less than 1,000 games now. Don't you think, Wayne?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Patrick Laine or I don't know how many games. How many games has Sidney Crosby played?
I don't know if he's reached the 1,000 mark yet. I'd have to look it up.
He's still got to score 200 goals, though.
Yeah.
I don't see Sidney Crosby doing that.
No, Crosby gets more points than anything. He doesn't get as many goals as Ovechkin does.
Yeah.
All right, let's head on to the next story. Marc-Andre Fleury made 38 saves for the Vegas Golden Knights to earn his 400th NHL win, a 3-2 win against the Flyers at Wells Fargo Center on Monday. Fleury is the 13th goaltender in NHL history to reach the 400-win plateau, and he's the third active, joining Roberto Luongo and Henrik Lundqvist. Congrats to him on reaching that. And they weren't expecting him to do that so far this year.
Yes.
Or obviously they were expecting Vegas not to be as good as they are, and ultimately he ends up getting it this year instead of next year. So congrats to Marc-Andre Fleury for that. And of course, our three stars of the week are Patrick Laine, Brad Marchand, and Evgeny Malkin. Three players that have had huge weeks. All three of them have had huge weeks.
All right. Malkin is definitely far and away the best player, and I watched him again last night. He's the best player on Pittsburgh's squad this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, far and away he is.
No question about it. And I watched Kessel very closely, but Malkin is definitely the MVP of the team this year.
Yep, and the question is, will he continue in the playoffs? My cousin is a Penguins fan. He's been a Penguins fan since the Mario Lemieux days, and he doesn't like Malkin at all.
Really?
Because he feels that as soon as the playoffs start, Malkin ends up disappearing. He says it happens every year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's just his observation. Take it for what it is.
I think through it all, Wayne, I really like Evgeny Malkin compared to the rest of the team, but I still say he's Pittsburgh's best player and money man, go-to man when they have to have it. Unless if he's hurt, if he's playing hurt, or if he is hurt and we don't know about it, that's a different story.
Yep.
But when he's healthy, he's the best player on Pittsburgh. He's money for the Penguins.
Yep, for sure. Okay, a couple more honors we have this week. Vegas Golden Knights broke another NHL record this week for most road wins by a first-season team with a 2-1 shootout victory against the Sabres back on Saturday. Derek Englund scored, and Fleury made 31 saves for the Golden Knights, who passed the 93-94 Anaheim Mighty Ducks, or actually they were known as the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim back then, with their 20th road win. And, of course, Vegas continues to be in first place. And finally, an award for off-the-ice accomplishments. PK Subban took home a Canadian Screen Award for his hosting performance in PK Subban Shots Fired at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal last year. And we talked about this. In our podcast way back when it happened. Yeah. But it happened over the summer, and he actually won an award for that. So congrats to him for that. So
he's something.
Yeah, he sure is. All right, we're at the power ranking time.
We're at the power ranking time, Wayne. It is my turn this week, and I'm kind of excited to get on to this. If we hadn't had that long break earlier, though, I would have been totally walking around with egg on my face because I forgot to put some teams in there. And I don't know what happened. It must have been a lapse of my brain function there for a while. That happens. That happens, Wayne. That happens. But let it suffice to say I'm ready to go with accurate numbers. And we're going to start out at number 17 because I always have an honorable mention when I do mine.
Sure.
And number 17 is, believe it or not, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Even though they are in a playoff position right now, I've picked one other team that is not in a playoff position and put them in my power rankings. The Columbus Blue Jackets are number 17. Number 16, the New Jersey Devils. Number 15, the Philadelphia Flyers. So we're seeing some metropolitan teams here at the bottom. Number 14, this is the team, the Anaheim Ducks. I still believe that you'll see either them or the Calgary Flames as one of the Pacific Division's 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs.
Yep, agreed.
Number 13, the Colorado Avalanche. Number 12, the Los Angeles Kings. Number 11 is the Dallas Stars. Number 10, the Minnesota Wild. Number 9, Pittsburgh clings to the number 9 position. Number 8, the Washington Capitals. Number 7, the San Jose Sharks. They've really made a move up the power rankings. Number 6, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Number 5, and they've stayed in the top 5 the whole year, haven't they, Wayne? The Winnipeg Jets.
Yep.
Number 4. They've really dropped compared to where we've had them for months. The Vegas Golden Knights are at number 4. Number 3, the Boston Bruins. Number 2, if they're not the hottest team in the NHL, they're the second hottest team in the NHL, the Nashville Predators. And because of their goal differential and a couple other stats, although their points are tied as we speak and do this podcast, I put Tampa Bay again at number 1. The Tampa Bay Lightning is the number 1 team on the power rankings.
Sounds fair enough. Yeah, I would agree with the I think I had Nashville, Tampa Bay, Boston as the top 3, but definitely those 3 seem to be head and shoulders above the rest, although Boston's getting their butt kicked tonight. So they're losing to the red-hot Florida Panthers right now. It's 3-0 right now as we speak, so in the third period. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a good night for the Bruins anyway. All right, let's move ahead to taking a look at, what's coming up this week.
All right.
First and foremost, the GM meetings are happening in the Boca Raton, Florida. I think it's next week. So they're not there this week. It's usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's usually middle of the week when they all go down to Boca Raton in March.
Right.
And discuss the direction of the game, the direction of the league, and that kind of stuff. So look for lots of discussion concerning rule changes. You're definitely going to see a lot of stuff talking about goalie interference because that's been a very hot topic so far this year. And look for all kinds of stuff coming out from Florida and that. I'm curious who the Carolina Hurricanes are going to send down to the GM meetings where they don't really have one right now. Wonder if Tom Dundon's going to go himself.
That'll be interesting. I think Ron Francis will make his way down there.
They'll probably send Don Waddell, who's the team president, and probably I don't know if they can send 2 or if they can only send 1, or if they're going to send Francis or not. It'll be interesting to see who they send. All right. So other than that, we've got some games and lots of games. So the Boston Bruins are going to be at Florida. That's actually tonight as we speak. They're going to be at Tampa Bay on the 17th. That's the first of 3 more with Tampa Bay. So they've got 4 against Florida and 3 against Tampa Bay in their final. I think they got 14 games left, including tonight. So half of those games against the 2 Florida teams.
Yeah.
And they're going to be at home against Columbus on the 19th, and then they go out to St. Louis on the 21st, and then Dallas on the 23rd. So 5 games in the next 7 or 8 days. I've got the schedule all the way out to next weekend, so probably the next 10 days. 5 games in the next 10 days, 4 of them on the road for the Bruins, and none of them easy.
Right.
Every team that they're playing is either in the playoff hunt or fighting to be in the playoff hunt. There's no easy ones on that schedule.
Yeah, they're playing some tough teams. You're right.
Yep. Carolina, on the other hand, has a little bit easier go of it. They've got Philadelphia on the 17th, who that's not going to be an easy game for them. If they're going to make a run for the playoffs, as slim as it is for them to make the playoffs, a must win. They got to get 2 against Philadelphia, and they got to keep Philadelphia from getting any points in that game. Mm-hmm. And then they got to go at New York Islanders on the 18th. Again, they got to beat them. That the Islanders are a team that's below them in the standings.
Never an easy place to play either.
Yeah.
They're really never, and even when the Islanders stink, never an easy play. If you've got to make up ground to get in the playoffs, you don't want to play in the Islanders. It's just not.
Yeah, it's a tough place. Even I don't know if it's the headlights from that car that caused problems with the players or what. And then they come back home against Edmonton on the 20th. I'd love to go to that game. I want to see Connor McDavid play, but I got to work that day, so I won't be able to go to that game. But they've got Edmonton on the 20th, and again, must win. Edmonton's a team below them in the standings. And then another home game against Arizona on the 22nd. Again, a must win. So if Carolina can pull out 4 wins in a row here in the next week against all teams that are definitely winnable games, we'll see where they're at there. They'll still be outside the playoffs if they win all 4 of these games, but we'll see how much the gap is at that point if they can.
That will be an encouraging sign.
But they have to win all 4 of those games. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that.
If they're going to make a playoff run,
I think next week at this time we'll be able to say for sure.
Yeah.
When we do our podcast next week, hey, Carolina's making a go of it, or
they're eliminated.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Florida Panthers, or that's it.
Well, I'm saying now, realistically, they're out, but you never know what can happen. I mean, who would have thought that Boston would come back from 3 goals down?
There's just no pressure on them.
Right.
There's no they haven't been to the playoff. There's pressure there in Florida.
And that's the way they need to play. They need to play like they have no pressure on them.
Yep.
So, all right. What about the Rangers?
We of course played Pittsburgh last night and won. St. Louis, we're going to be playing at the Scottrade Center Saturday night against the St. Louis Blues. If you are a Rangers fan, don't miss it. That's a tough place. We've had difficulties over the years at the Scottrade Center trying to beat the St. Louis Blues. So that'll be a good game. The Columbus Blue Jackets, we play them for the final time at the Garden on March 20th, which would be next Tuesday night. And then on the 22nd, and I believe that game is televised. I think that is an NBC Sports Network game. It is. We're playing the Flyers on the 22nd, and that is going to be a great game. That'll be a fun game to watch. It really will be.
The Pittsburgh game was fun last night, and I think the Philadelphia game is going to be fun next week. So, that's going to be fun. All right. So, other than that, it's pretty much I'm almost focusing on the Western Conference the rest of the way, at least until if and when the East tightens up a bit.
Right.
Because the East is kind of loosened up a little bit. There's some definite teams that are in and out in the East, but in the West, it's still totally up in the air.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on to the College Hockey Minute. Let's finish out, talk about my University of Maine Black Bears by talking about their playoff series against Providence College last weekend in the second round of the Hockey East playoffs. And they ultimately fell to Providence, 2 very close games. They had the lead late in game 1. I wasn't able to watch these games because, TV people and people in charge at these schools continue to be idiots and want to charge their viewers to watch games. They want to charge $10 to watch this game streamed online.
God.
Although if you lived in the market in New England, you could get it for free on television. Apparently their NBC Sports has also local NBC Sports Networks in certain markets, and there's one of those in Boston. And the game was on that network up there. But if you're not in that market, you can't get that channel. So I could have watched it for $10 a game, and I'm like, no, thank you. But I did listen to the audio of the game. I was doing some stuff around the house, and I just listened to the audio of that game. And Maine had the lead late in the first game.
I was pulling for them, Wayne.
Yeah,
I was pulling for the Maine Black Bears.
And then they fell short in that game, and then I was working Saturday night, so I didn't get to see how they lost 3-2. But they ultimately end up getting swept in their 3-game series against Providence. So that ends Maine's season. They finish 18-16-4 overall. It's their first winning record they've had in several years. So that's the bright note there. And they ultimately finished 28th in the pairwise rankings. So there's no chance of them getting an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So Maine season is over, but it was a promising one anyway. It's an improvement over the last several years. So we'll take that and run with it. All right, talking about the rest of college hockey, though, and I know you've got a story about the Notre Dame, so I'll breeze over them real quick. But anyway, let's finish with the rest of Hockey East. All 4 series, the quarterfinal series in Hockey East, ended up being sweeps, and it's kind of anticlimactic. All 4 series ended up being sweeps, and all 4 high seeds ended up moving on. So the number 1 Boston College, number 4 BU, number 3 Providence, and number 2 Northeastern all advanced with sweeps. But curiously, 8 games were played in those 4 series total because they were all best of 3. 7 of the 8 games were 1-goal games.
Wow!
But the higher seed ended up winning the game. And then the other game was a 7-2 Northeastern blowout of Massachusetts Amherst. So the 4 teams in Boston is Boston College, Boston University, Providence, Northeastern, and that's how the schedule is going to be on semifinal night on Friday night. BC will play BU. That's going to be a fun game to watch. Those 2 schools hate each other. And then Providence will play Northeastern in the late game. I wish it was the other way around, because I would be able to watch it. But tomorrow night, the BCBU game's at 5 p.m., and then the Providence Northeastern's at 8. So, unfortunately, by the time I get home from work, the BCBU game should be done, unless it goes to overtime. And they play a couple of periods of overtime. Because they do play full 20 minutes overtime periods. In the
Now, when does it start, Wayne?
The semifinal games are tomorrow night. Friday
okay.
night. And those should be on NESN, if you get NESN. Yeah. And the championship game will be Saturday night. So it's single game elimination at this point in the bracket. And the ECAC, the final 4 teams in that conference tournament are Cornell, who's the number 2 seed, number 7 Princeton, who upset the 2nd seed and the 16th nationally ranked Union in their best of 3 series. So Princeton advances on to play Cornell. And the 3 seed Clarkson and the 4 seed Harvard will play each other for the rights to play in the ECAC championship. And that follows the same schedule. Semifinals Friday night, finals Saturday night, and single game elimination. And those games are taking place at Herb Brooks Arena at Lake Placid, New York.
Okay.
A very legendary building to play in. And the ECAC has been playing there for years.
Mm-hmm.
They're ECAC and Hockey East have this tradition of where they play their Final 4 games. Hockey East has always played at theirs at TD Garden, and going back, Boston Garden. I've been to many Hockey East semifinal and finals in the Boston Garden in years past, the old Boston Garden, and then now the new Garden, and then ECAC has been playing at Lake Placid for quite some time now. They used to play. God, I seem to remember they used to play at Madison Square Garden at one time, but they stopped playing there many years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, started playing in Lake Placid. Atlantic Hockey, on the other hand, is a relatively new conference, so they haven't developed the long traditions yet. But the Final 4 in the Atlantic Conference tournament are number 1 Mercyhurst, number 7 Robert Morris, number 5 Air Force, and number 2 Canisius. So, and the way this, because these are smaller private schools pretty much that play in this conference, none of these teams are nationally ranked at this time. So pretty much the only team coming out of this conference going to the NCAA tournament is going to be the tournament winner.
Right.
All right. And in the Big Ten, they're already down to their championship game, and that game will be Saturday night. And that takes place at the location of the higher seed, whereas Atlantic Hockey is going to be, I didn't mention that. They're going to be at Blue Cross Arena in Rochester, New York. The higher seed, which is Notre Dame, that championship game is Saturday night, and you've got a story about Notre Dame later in the show, so I'll just go on there. And then going on to NCHC conference, you've got number 1 St. Cloud State against number 4 North Dakota, and number 3 Minnesota Duluth will play number 2 Denver in the semifinals of that conference tournament. And that semifinal and final is taking place at the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. The WCHA is down to their championship game, and the 2 teams left in that tournament are Northern Michigan and Michigan Tech. Northern Michigan, the 2 seed, Michigan Tech, the 5 seed, and that one is taking place at the arena of Northern Michigan. So the host school is hosting that championship game. And that is it for all the conference tournaments. And, of course, the 6 conference winners get automatic bids to the NCAA tournament, and the rest of the teams will hopefully get an at-large bid. And with that in mind, let's take a quick look at the pairwise, and we'll start at number 16. Right now is Northern Michigan, and Bowling Green is also 16th ranked, so you've actually got a tie for 16th. Boston College is 15th, North Dakota is 14th, Minnesota is 13th, Penn State is 12th. Tied for number 10 is Michigan and Clarkson. Tied at number 8 is Providence and Minnesota Duluth. Number 7 is Northeastern. Number 6 is Minnesota State. Number 4 is Denver. Number 4 also is Ohio State, so there's a tie for 4th. And a tie for 2nd, Notre Dame and Cornell. And the number 1 ranked team once again this week is St. Cloud State. So if I didn't mention your school in this top 16 of the pairwise, and your school is not still alive in their respective conference tournament, then your school is probably not going to make the NCAA tournament. So that is where we stand in the college hockey world.
Wayne.
Yeah.
Safe to say that the winner of the Boston University Boston College game is in, and the loser is out.
Not necessarily. Northeastern's got a really good team this year. Oh, as far as the NCAA tournament,
right? Boston University, Boston College. The winner of that game makes the NCAA, and the loser does not.
Let me see where.
What do you think?
BC's 15th in the pairwise. Of course, the Atlantic. The one thing that could upset things is if Western Michigan wins their conference tournament, because they're sitting outside the top 16. If they win that, and of course the Atlantic Conference, their champion is also outside the top 16. If Western Michigan wins their conference, BC's out for sure, unless they win the Hockey East. BU has to win the conference tournament no matter what to get in.
Okay.
So yeah. I would probably say that based on anything going, the winner of the BC-BU game, their season is over. BC might squeak in if all the highest seeds win their games this weekend.
Right.
The one wild card there is that Western Michigan, because they're a pretty low-ranked team and they're still alive. Michigan Tech is a number 5 seed in their conference.
Right.
They're barely above 500 as a team. They're nowhere near the top 16 in the pairwise. That one game right there could really affect Boston College. In the other conferences, all 4 NCHC teams, no matter what, are going to make the NCAA tournament. Same thing with the Big Ten. Atlantic Hockey, that's just one team that's going to get out of there. ECAC. If Princeton, the number 7 seed, wins that conference, that'll cause problems. Harvard, same thing. If Harvard wins that conference, that's going to cause problems for BC. And Hockey East, all 4 teams are going to make the NCAA, I think. I'm sorry. Providence and Northeastern are definitely going to get in Hockey East. So, yeah, the winner of BCBU, I think you're right. That is determining not only the conference champion or the conference finalist, but I think the loser of that game is ultimately going to be out of the NCAA tournament picture. BC is the only school of the 2 that has a legitimate shot at an at-large bid. I think BU is out no matter what if they lose. So that's my take there. All right, enough college hockey. Let's move on to our picks of the week. Did we miss something?
I think we missed the minor league hockey minute.
All right, let's do that before we go to the picks of the week. You're right. We did kind of skip over the minor league hockey minute.
We did, and mine involves college hockey. So while we're still at the college hockey, because I really want to hear yours. Yours is a good one. I've read over it. I know about it. But let me. I've given it away a little bit, Wayne. But Saturday is a big day. It's a big day across the country. Some people, Saturday is a big day because, by golly, it's the weekend and they get to rest and they don't have to work. For other people, it is St. Patrick's Day, a very sacred day for a lot of people across the country, and they're looking forward to it. But for me personally, Saturday is a big day because the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are in the Big Ten Championship for the first time in their first year, and they're going to be playing the Ohio State Buckeyes, and that's going to be one hell of a hockey game.
It is.
Would not miss that. That's 2 teams in the top 5 in the nation, and they're going to be playing each other Saturday night. My minor league hockey minute is the Big Ten semifinals. The Big Ten finals. Notre Dame against Ohio State, and I pulled this off the Notre Dame website. Jack, hang on one second. I've got the wrong page here. There we go. Jack Jenkins' goal with 32 seconds left in regulation gave Notre Dame a 3-2 win over Penn State in Saturday's first Big Ten semifinal. The win sends Notre Dame to the Big Ten championship game in its first season and ends Penn State's title defense. Despite the loss, Penn State is likely to make the NCAA tournament. The Nittany Lions will be the number 3 or 4 seed in the Midwest Regional. I don't know how they knew this. But that's what's written on the article.
That's their guess.
The Nittany Lions will be the 3 or 4 seed in the Midwest Regional as the host of the Allentown portion of the tournament. Penn State is a hell of a hockey team, Notre Dame coach Jeff Jackson said. They're a better team today than the last time we played them. I thought our defensive core did a really good job. The win is good for our confidence considering how we finished the regular season. I thought we did a better job today than we have in the past against them managing the puck. That's always a challenge because they pressure the puck so hard. It's a one-and-done season right now. You have to learn to embrace that. Every game at this time of the year is a championship game. You either win or it ends your chance at playing for a championship. The appearance in next Saturday's title game will be the Fighting Irish's first since their last year in the CCHA 2012-13, when it won the last ever CCHA hockey tournament. The teams traded goals in the first period. Jordan Gross got Notre Dame on the board at 6:18. Nate, and I hope I pronounce this right, Success tied the game at 11:43, scoring a power play goal. Just 2 minutes and 20 seconds later, Notre Dame got back on track through Andrew Peak, who scored at that time. Once again, however, the lead wouldn't last. Brandon Biro struck just a minute and 40 seconds after Peak's tally. The first period would end 2-2, and the score wouldn't change until Jenkins' game winner with 32 seconds to go in the game. And that wasn't for lack of effort from either team. Both teams totaled at least 45 shots on goal, with the Fighting Irish claiming a slight advantage at 47-45. The Fighting Irish goaltender Cale Morris finished the night with 43 saves compared to 44 for Penn State's Peyton Jones. One of the stories of Penn State's season is its inability to defeat Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish were 4-0-1 against the Nittany Lions this season. Up next, Notre Dame will host Ohio State, who won 3-2 in overtime to advance over Michigan. The puck drops at 8 p.m. at Compton Family Ice Arena, and the game can be seen on the Big Ten Network. So that is my minor league hockey minute, and it was a short one. Let's get on to yours, Wayne, because it's a good one.
All right. My minor league hockey minute concerns the KHL. And I found this article was brought to my attention by a couple of the different YouTubers that I follow. And it was it's an article, and I can't even remember the website. Paste Magazine is the article, written by Jacob Weinling, dated March 8th. Talking about how the KHL apparently is rigged to favor Vladimir Putin's favorite team. So here's how the article reads. It says, hockey is a big, big deal in Russia. The famed 1980 Miracle on Ice, where the United States upset a heavily favored USSR, is emblematic of its importance. Like Canada, Russia is plenty of frozen land where hockey is the best and only option to play sports, and Russians take immense pride in the game. NHL superstars like Ilya Kovalchuk and Pavel Datsyuk have left the league to go home and play in the Russian KHL. The league has fashioned itself as something of a competitor of the NHL, and it certainly has proven so when it comes to hoarding Russian talent. Some of the best Russian players in the world do not play in the NHL, which is to say that some of the best hockey players on earth are not on NHL rosters. Which is why this story about Putin corrupting the KHL is such a stark reminder of how far he will go to enforce his rule. Sure, he's murdered political dissenters across the globe, but that's par for the course for any despot. The ordeal is proof that Vladimir Putin fashions himself as something far closer to Kim Jong-un than President Putin. This summary of the KHL season from Slava Mulamud, a Russian sports writer, is completely, utterly bonkers. Now, what it is just a series of 20-plus tweets, one right after another. It probably would have been 50 tweets under the old 140-character rule, but now that they allow 280, he got it shortened down to 20-something tweets. Anyway, so I'm just going to read all the tweets because it's kind of designed to be one big article put together, just broken up into many, many tweets. All right, here's Slava Malamud's take on the Russian KHL season. He says, so here's what's happening in the KHL for those who still can't quite grasp the banality of evil Russian style. The entire league has been set up this year to allow SKA to win. It's Putin's team. This is Putin's election year. It's chock full of OAR Olympians. SKA is allowed to ignore the salary cap. Its payroll is 6 times that of an average KHL team. It has dibs on every star who considers the KHL. Most of its players are rabid Putin supporters who took part in his campaign rally last week. I repeat, SKA must win. It's not an option. There's a slight possibility of a loss if the opponent is CSKA, owing to the Moscow team's legacy and the patriotic value of their potential victory, but it's a small chance. Putin wants SKA, and SKA it shall be. The KHL even has an official explanation for this. It goes like this. Allowing all the best players to concentrate on one team has created a unique chemistry that transitions seamlessly to the Olympic squad. Making the KHL season easy for them has safeguarded against injuries and bad morale. This is why we won the gold. Yes, the KHL isn't even denying that the entire 2017-18 season is fake. They are simply claiming that sacrificing it for the national team's success was totally worth it. For the honor of the motherland, they're citing the Soviet model when the domestic league was also a sham. However, there's a problem. In the first round of the playoffs, SKA has drawn Severstal Sharapovets. It's not a problem because Severstal is a strong opponent, not at all. It's an eternal minnow, which has been bad for so long the league is considering it for contraction. And this is precisely the problem. Severstal has nothing to lose and nothing to fear. If they bow out to SKA easily, it will prove the league's case and the axe will swing. Giving SKA trouble may at least create enough of a scandal to make the league reconsider. Severstal is exactly in the same position as the Charleston Chiefs from Slapshot, trying to stave off the seemingly inevitable demise by being a big story. Even Putin's potential wrath isn't a deterrent. There is also the fact that it's totally unfair to contract Severstal. Yes, it's a struggling team with bad finances, but it's had an incredible season, all things considered. Its fans are amazing. Sharapovitz is basically Hamilton, moved way up north and stripped of all of its famous Hamilton charm. It's steel mills, hockey, and frozen wasteland. So this brave little team from a hockey-mad industrial deathscape is being fed into the SKA's maw as playoff appetizer, and it's totally refusing to go down easy. If this wasn't Russia, where evil always wins, it would have been Hoosiers, Miracle, and Bad News Bears all in one. But this is absolutely Russia, so this is what transpires. As SKA, most of its roster badly hung over after Putin's big election bash the day before, is about to lose Game 1, the refs reach for their whistles and blow hard. The PIM count is 24-0 in Severstal's favor. SKA finally connects on the power play to go up 3-2, only to see Severstal tie it in the last minute. No problem, though. The refs give SKA 2 more power plays in overtime until they finally score. In Game 2, Severstal keeps it close for a while until eventually succumbing. But in Game 3, with the home fans going nuts, Severstal is giving SKA all it can handle. Now, one would think the refs would give this one to the hosts just to make things plausible, and at least the PIM count is even this time. But the pesky underdogs take it to OT again. Then this happens, and then there's a link in the article going to a video, and I watched the video, and basically it's SKA scoring a goal, but on the play, it was determined that SKA was at least a foot offside. It was a puck that came up to the blue line. Defenseman tried to hold it in, and it was a quick bang play, and the puck came out and it went right back in by the defenseman. That's the video that I saw. Okay. Wow. And then he continues. If you saw this video to the end, you'll notice a rather obvious case of offside. The Severstal coach, a cynical, sarcastic dude whose interviews are borderline subversive and make it obvious that everyone knows what's going on, challenged the goal. The play was reviewed. The replay officials saw exactly what you just saw. They conferred for several minutes and announced their verdict. Good goal. Forget making this look plausible. Severstal has become more trouble than it's worth. Better get them out of the way safely. This was too much. The above video was posted by Severstal's official Twitter account. The word winning in game-winning goal was in parentheses. The fans' mentions are untranslatable. This, again, is all out in the open. Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone. And nothing can change. Putin's pleasure and the motherland's honor are what counts. SKA must win. It's the priority. But the last frame of Severstal's little protest video declares, hockey's more important in today's Russia. This is as big of an anti-Putin protest as one can be allowed. Probably the most tragic thing about it is that Pavel Datsyuk, an amazing player and not in any way politician, is having his name soiled with this by playing for SKA. But that's what you get when you dance with the devil. Actually, forget it. It's the most tragic thing, is that everyone in Russia knows what's going on. The fans, the officials, the media, it's all out in the open. And the people who have made it happen, all KHL bosses or Putin's close friends, have already announced that the system is proven effective and should continue. For the glory of the motherland, is all I have to say is this, guys. If you learn nothing else from Russia, please learn to always run as fast as you can from the mother effers who say they want to bring glory to your country. I'm done for tonight. For those of you who wonder how the SKA Severstal story ends, SKA just swept the opponent, winning 2-0 in Game 4. The PIM count was SKA 31, Severstal 57. This is Russia, folks. So, little lesson here. In that I kind of suspected it, but this guy is obviously not a Putin supporter, and if he lives in Russia, I would probably fear for my safety if I were him. Yeah, it's come right out in the open that the KHL season is fixed, and I had read stories way back, the old Russian Elite League, when the Red Army team was playing in that league. If you go back into the 80s and the 70s, basically until the Iron Curtain fell, and look at the records from those years, and the old Red Army team rolled over everybody, and
right,
every year that team won pretty much.
Right. There are some thoughts I have that come to mind, and what a great story. First of all, I thought that was when you sent me that article in the middle of the week, I was really, what a great story. But I want to say again, I want to thank you, Wayne, from the bottom of my heart for saying let's cover the KHL. Let's have a KHL minute each week last year.
Yep.
It expanded my appreciation for hockey so much, studying each week those teams in that league and learning about that league, but more importantly, learning about the people and the players that make it happen. And when I think about a team like Magnitogorsk, that town is put together to make steel in Eastern Europe, basically. And
it looks like Sharapovets is another one of those towns. And
Severstal is a huge steel company in Russia, and they're put together to make steel for Eastern Europe. Some of that stuff may go into Europe itself, but that's what they do. The fans in those communities are die-hard hockey fans. They represent a country that loves hockey, despite whatever Vladimir Putin does, and it's a passion for them, and it just like it is for us. And I'm so thankful that we got to really take a look at that as two hockey nuts and study that league. And so I read this article, and yeah, SKA may win. Yeah, they may win, but the real story is teams like Sharapovets, I think about Barry Sestanya in I believe it's in Kazakhstan, but a team that didn't exist 5 years ago and now has a lot of fans. I believe it's Barry Sestanya in Kazakhstan, where you wouldn't think that hockey would, but it flourishes. We did a story in a podcast not long ago in Latvia where they had an outdoor game and it was totally packed. So there's a lot of good stories coming out of the KHL, despite what you see here and or read about, which I have no doubt is probably true. But the passion and the love for hockey with those fans over there in Eastern Europe, it's real. And it's not going anywhere. I think it's just going to grow. So a great story. Yep.
It'll be interesting to see with next year not being an Olympic year if they continue to stack the deck for that one team. It'll be something that we're going to watch a little bit closer with our eyes wide open for sure.
Right.
We kind of we've been marveling at SKA's brilliance or their how good their team is. And just so you get a sense for how good they are, I pulled up their record. Their regular season record was 47-5-4. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. They outscored their opponents in the regular season 227-97. So, but the fact that they're allowed to spend 6 times what anybody else is allowed to spend, that obviously makes an advantage for them. Yeah. The fact that they're allowed to ignore the salary cap and other teams are not, which anyway. So yeah, and we've kind of shied away a little bit from the KHL this season because we wanted to cover more minor leagues that are going on around the world other than the KHL because after all, we have a league here in North America that is probably just as good in the AHL.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see, but if AHL teams could stack against KHL, but NHL wants nothing to do with the KHL, so you don't see any collaboration going on between these two leagues at all.
Right.
It'd be nice if everybody could get along and we could have something of a world championship where the winners of all these respective world, let's say have a mini tournament where all the champions of the NHL and the KHL and the Swedish league and the Finnish league and the Czech league and the German league, all the winners get together and have a little tournament to see who the true world champion is. Yeah. My guess is the NHL team would probably roll over all of them, but be interesting to see nonetheless. But yeah. So yeah, it's I don't know what to say about this other than I'm not really that surprised, I guess, that it's going on because it was going on under the old Russian elite league back in the day. So I guess it is what it is.
Right.
So it'd be nice if they would just everybody would play it clean and win it, on the ice rather than in the front office. But clearly they're not allowing that. So makes me want to root against SKA in the coming weeks. Their next opponent is Locomotive.
Well, you never know.
And if you remember Locomotive, that's the team that lost the entire team to a plane crash.
Oh, that's right.
A few years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So, all right. So that's all I had for the minor league minute. Interesting story as it was. So that leaves us with nothing but picks of the week.
Picks of the week.
And you've got a feel-good story.
I do. And you know what? It goes, again, right in line with what we just finished talking about. Let me get mine out of the way so we can listen to yours.
All right.
Or would you rather me go last?
Go for it.
I think, okay, and I got to tell a story today. Two things. I got home from work today. I fell asleep on the couch. I had about a half an hour before podcast time, and I had not picked my pick of the week, but it's been a long week. Regardless, I get online. All of a sudden, my eyes, I'm going through the screens, the NHL. Boom, my eyes fall right on Buchnevich. And I decided to make this my pick of the week. It didn't take me very long to see. I did not see this at last night's game. I didn't watch it. But right in line with what we're talking about, Pavel Buchnevich came from Severstal. He played for Sharapovitz. He was a forward for that team for more than 1 year. And my pick of the week is entitled Buchnevich moves a young fan to tears by flipping him a stick. And so apparently in last night's game at Madison Square Garden, a young fan came into the arena, and his favorite player is Pavel Buchnevich. Now, I don't know how much information the guy gets about the KHL, but obviously he has some. So let me get into this article. Rangers forward makes supporters night by giving him a gift. And I'm going to say it again. I mean, I hear that, but he probably did more than make his night, Wayne. He probably
made his life.
Made his life.
Yeah.
Because this young kid's not going to ever forget this.
No, he won't.
Pavel Buchnevich probably made a fan for life Wednesday. A young Buchnevich fan was moved to tears after the New York Rangers forward flipped him a stick. During warm-ups against the Pittsburgh Penguins at Madison Square Garden, Benjamin, who is in the Junior Rangers youth hockey organization and has been a huge Buchnevich fan since he signed with New York in May of 2016, was standing rinkside when the forward skated over and tossed him the stick before high-fiving him between the glass. Buchnevich's gesture overwhelmed the fan, who began crying. That's Benjamin. Fortunately, he composed himself in time to flash a selfie with his hero. If you go online on NHL.com, you'll actually see that picture with Buch standing at the glass. Quite a touching story, and there's some video that's attached to it, so I encourage you to go online. In an interview with Rangers TV host Amanda Borges, Benjamin described the moment he made the connection with his favorite player. "I'm at the glass," he said. "I have Zibanejad, Kreider, they're all waving to me, and then I see Buchnevich, and then he winked like, wow, that's a very nice jersey." So let me digress for a minute. I took a look. Why would he come over to this fan at the glass? What was it about him that all these players were? Well, if you look at it, he's wearing a Sharapovitz Severstal jersey, a KHL jersey, which is really actually a very cool jersey that he has, and it is a Pavel Buchnevich jersey. If you look at that on NHL.com, you'll see that he's wearing Buchnevich's Severstal team jersey.
Yep.
That's why he skated over there to see him. So back to the article. "I see Buchnevich, and then he winked like, wow, that's a very nice jersey. And then he was talking to look at this. And then he was talking to Nemesnikov like, look at this kid. A second later, boom, Buchnevich comes and gives me the stick over the glass. I'm a huge Rangers fan, so it's very emotional for me." And that just goes hand in hand again, Wayne, with the article you just finished. I want to bring it to light again. It really doesn't matter, Vladimir Putin, Leonid Brezhnev, it really doesn't matter. If this kid does have connections with folks in Russia, they're very passionate fans over there, extremely passionate, just like here in this country and in Canada. And, you know, it catches on with players, KHL players who have come over here to play.
Yep.
And we've chronicled Pavel Buchnevich over several podcasts. So a great story, and I'm really, really glad I got a chance to read that today.
Yep,
Quick.
Cool. Great story. Yeah, and when I saw that, I'm like, oh, we got to have that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, mine, we're going to end with a little bit of comedy tonight. And mine is concerning, and I think we might have done this last year, but it's become an annual thing. This past week or last week, the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament has taken place. And it's a big thing in Minnesota. It's huge. And I've seen pictures from the tournament itself. Some of the games, particularly as it gets towards the end of the tournament, at the championship game at the different levels of, I don't know how they divide their high schools up, but there's multiple levels of, I know in most states it's usually the size of the school. There's a certain group of big schools, mid-sized schools, small schools, and they have a champion for each division, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how it works in Minnesota, but this article really has nothing to do with the games themselves, other than the fact that they play towards the end of the tournament, either the semifinals and finals or may just be the championship games, are played at the XL Energy Center right there where the Wild play. So NHL-sized rink, these kids get to play. And the place is packed. I mean, it is packed to the gills with fans. They show up for the high school hockey there. It's huge, which obviously, shows why Minnesota calls themselves the state of hockey. But anyway, there's an article on NHL.com, and it doesn't have the writer's name, so I can't give credit there, but it's on NHL.com, talking about or naming Minnesota's high school all-hockey hair team. Because one of the big things that's come out of this tournament is the fact that they do the player introductions, and there's a guy on the ice with a camera, and the player skates up to the camera, stops, when he's being introduced. This is obviously pregame, he or she, and they rate the kid's hair, because some of these kids have these wild, crazy haircuts, right? Yeah. So they've started a all hockey hair team, and NHL.com is covering it, and they actually made a YouTube video. And if you click on the link on the show notes, it'll take you to the NHL.com article, which has the YouTube video embedded into it. And it's about a 10-minute video where it talks about all the different hockey hairstyles that were seen at the high school hockey tournament, and then it rates the best ones, okay? But I will go with the article anyway, and just encourage you to go look up that YouTube video. It's on YouTube, and the title of that video is 2018 Minnesota State High School All Hockey Hair Team. But the article goes as follows. The strongest salads were out this weekend in Minnesota, but only one could be the best in flow. Game on, Minnesota celebrated Minnesota, or Miniflota, if you like, high school hockey all hockey hair team for the third straight year. And Carly Beniek, a junior from Breck School, aptly nicknamed Rapuxel for her long blonde locks, was named top due in an upset. But the competition was fierce, and there is a pun-filled, completely bonkers, fun video to prove it, and that's the video that I referred to. The video, which held the theme, "Oh, the Places You'll Flow," is a must-watch, whether you're from the land of 10,000 lakes or simply can appreciate the sick lettuce. The honorable mention highlights the diverse dues, which are more plentiful each year. And Orono High School defeated Alexandria for the boys on ice championship, in case anyone was wondering. So that's short and sweet article, but it encourages you to go watch that video. And when you get a minute, Steve, you should go, and anybody listening to this, if you go onto YouTube, do a search for 2018 Minnesota State High School All Hockey Hair Team. Watch that video, because you'll be laughing all the way through it.
I'm going to do that.
Yep, it's hilarious. So yeah, a girl won it this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point where some of these guys will skate up to the camera, and some of these guys will they skate up to the camera, and as they skate up, they're shaking their hair out, and some of them will go do a wink to the camera, or do a head nod, what's up, that kind of stuff. It's freaking hilarious to watch these kids. It's become a thing that these kids are growing their hair out all year long just for this moment.
I'm about to break into hysterics here, Wayne.
So, yeah, great little story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that ends things for us for this week. It's getting pretty late here.
Yeah, it is. Great podcast, and I had a great time working with you again, Wayne. I really did.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So we're going to go ahead and end it this week, and we're back on our regular schedule. So in about a week's time, we'll record another one, and of course we'll probably have a lot more teams that have been eliminated. But in the meantime, we are posting more and more content over on the YouTube channel, and you can get there simply by going to thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. That's the best way to reach that. And then, I'm doing, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're doing a video for each team that gets mathematically eliminated from the Stanley Cup competition. Not only the teams that are not going to make the playoffs, but the teams that get knocked out of the playoffs are going to be doing videos for them as well. So eventually we'll have all 30 teams done. Just taking a quick look at each team, taking a close look at it, where they're at and where they're going in the future, and then we'll go take things from there. So that's something we're working on over there on the YouTube channel. And of course, each week we're talking about all the injuries and the transactions and all the stuff going on, all the news going on around the league. So we're doing that each week on the podcast. So we'll go ahead and end things. And until next week, we'll catch you later. Talk to you later, Steve.
Have a good week, Wayne.
All right, you too.